Completely off topic. When I was undergraduate, I used to read stories by L Borges, who was like blind. Actually, he was blind. He's, as I recall, librarian at the National Library in Buenos Aires, and one of his stories was a library that had every possible book in the world. And people were searching this library for the one book, and they knew it was there, the one book that would unlock the secret of the library, that tell them which books were worth reading and which books weren't. So you can have too much information. And another story is that I lent somebody a book that I borrowed from the library to help them with an interview, help them prepare a presentation for an interview. And they said they returned it. And then I got a notice from the library saying, you still haven't returned this book. And I didn't have it. And I trusted the person, and I was about to send them an email to wherever they were. I think they're in Edinburgh. And then I thought, I can trust this person. So I went to the library. I looked at the card catalogue. I found where the book should be. I went to the exact location on the shelves, and there was the book. So it's quite possible the person was using the book in the library and just left it on a desk, and the librarian had replaced it without checking it back in. So if you want to lose a book, hide it in the library.
I can tell an amusing story about that. The famous physicist Enrico Fermi, after whom half the particles of the universe are named, fermions, his thesis written in the early 1920s was lost for 70 years. And it was finally found in the library, and it's on the spine of the book, it had his name, Fermi, but an F and the script T look much the same, and it was found filed under Termi. And I've had a similar experience as Jonathan with being told by the librarian I hadn't returned a book when in fact it had gone back and just not been properly checked in. This is a problem of loss of information. We've seen issues with revision control systems where information is lost as you move from one type to another. The Tech User Group went through this when they switched from a commercial revision control system, whose name I've forgotten, to something like Git. And it just wasn't possible to recover everything. And then we've seen the loss of entire machines with archives on them. And so the problem with digital data is when it's public data, one can have some hope that there might be multiple copies. But when it's commercial and proprietary, like a particular publisher's journal archive, there's no guarantee that 3 years from now that company hasn't gone into bankruptcy and the data's just been lost. The files have been, the storage has been overwritten, and we could lose massive amounts of information because we don't have redundant copies.
I just put a couple of links in the chat about this problem, and you know, more and more journals are becoming online only these days, and many of them are commercial, where the author signs the copyright over to the journal, and it's a commercial publisher, and they have an interest that no one else has a copy. Certainly not an entire searchable, browsable copy of all of the volumes of their journal. And the question is, what will be there 1,000 years from now? You know, someone once said we can read cuneiform tablets, you know, from the ancient Sumeria, but try to read, you know, an 8-inch floppy from the 1970s. It's more difficult, yeah. And, you know, with the stuff on paper, at least theoretically, it's all still there. You could scan it in again, whatever. And there are multiple copies of it around, even commercial journals. There are multiple copies on paper, but with the online stuff, there's one master copy somewhere. And if the publisher goes out of business, I'm not really aware of any sort of global long-term knowledge preservation plans. You know, and even if everything has a DOI, that's nice, but if this DOI isn't traceable, if it doesn't lead to what you're looking for, then it's really of no use in the end, yeah.